Welcome to Subscription Prescription, the podcast where you get the information you need to scale your subscription program.
Hello, and welcome to another dose of Subscription Prescription, the podcast where we help you figure out everything related to D2C subscriptions. I'm incredibly excited for today's guest that we have on the show because we have never had an interview like this before, but it is a problem that I know all of you are wondering about, thinking about, working around, and that is the legality of claims you make for your subscription products. So I am joined by Natascia. She's the founder of NT Law. Has an extensive experience in this kind of legal area. Natascia, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited. Natascia and I were in a similar consultant contractor group, and she introduced herself, and I was just I'm sure she had to take a step back on Slack. Who is this guy? Why is he so excited to talk to me? But I really am, because everybody we talk to, we talk about branding on this show all the time. We talk about how we should talk about the benefits of our products, of how we're trying to get people to understand that this is a product that will help them over time, because that lends itself to subscription. But you always have that voice in the back of your head wondering, is the FDA going to kill me for this, or what's going to happen? So I would love first to introduce yourself a little bit more, tell our audience a little bit more about your background and how you ended up in this space.
All right. Well, hi, I'm Natascia. I graduated law school and took the bar, and then the pandemic happened. So that's my fun little story. And I found myself in this FDA law realm because health and supplements were booming at that time. So that industry was just great to go into. So I started working with primarily label reviews, website reviews for supplement companies, cosmetic companies, food companies. And then I kind of branched out into the advertising realm, went to a bigger law firm and worked on FTC investigations, NAD decisions, and doing kind of more broad advertising claims for all products. And then I went in-house to Walgreens and worked with the marketing, social media teams and merchandising teams, and did a broad range of anything and everything that you can imagine with legal advertising with an in-house, very large company. So I feel like I've kind of seen it all.
No, I love that. So I have tons of questions, as you've seen it, because I've seen some before. But one of the first things I kind of would like to start with, because I know that founders are aware of a lot of these problems, but I'm always surprised at the level of. I mean, every once in a while I'll ask a question and I feel like I'm hearing back from a lawyer because of how much stuff they've been through. But can you give me a broad state of how advertising is working, the legal side of things, who's getting people into trouble, and that kind of stuff? What is the current state of advertising and claims when it comes to supplements, beauty, or consumer products?
Yeah, so the last year has been interesting. Obviously, we saw the government shut down, so there wasn't much going on with FDA and FTC during that time. But I would say there's definitely been some big FTC decisions, especially about subscriptions. I mean, we saw the Amazon Prime membership earlier last year, and then we saw a big one with Instacart recently where they were charging people for a subscription that people didn't even know they were signing up for. And that was, I believe, a something $1 million settlement. So we've seen that with the FTC, and then the FDA. They focus on the disease claims. I think their main focus right now is really going to be the front of pack labeling, the colors, getting all the colors from, the artificial to natural, and they have their very MAHA movement. And then I would say there's been a lot of lawsuits on this product is not working as it said it would. This company won't cancel my subscription. There was also the LA Fitness one that the FTC did too, which was a big one, the gym membership. I don't know if you're aware of that, but LA Fitness was not canceling or honoring cancellations of gym memberships. And so the subscription stuff has actually been kind of big. And then also a lot of lawsuits with influencers and improper ad disclosures. You have the influencer saying, use this product, I love it, changed my life. And they're not saying they're paid to say that. So that's been a big one. But I'd say I've seen a lot of lawsuits on pricing, emails that are promising, you can only get this deal today, but then the deal actually lasts longer, or it's the same deal the next day, but disguised as a different deal. So there's been a lot, but I would say a lot of lawsuits, companies suing other companies, and then also the class actions. And the FTC is definitely watching for endorsements, testimonials, proper ad disclosures, all of that.
So a question on that, and I will say I've always used gym memberships as examples of horrible subscription experiences because of how hard it is to cancel.
They're terrible.
Right. But I'm curious, like, because with the FTC, like some of the subscriptions like practices that they're going after and some of the other stuff, I mean, granted, I'm not telling anybody to break the law or anything like that, but at what level is it like, this is a big person problem versus I've got a $5 million a year supplement brand? Like, granted, I'm not saying like you go flout all these rules and do all this bad stuff, but should I be as worried about every letter of the law when I'm a $5 million brand as opposed to a $500 million brand? Because I often wonder that myself, and I've never asked this question to a lawyer, so I'm curious to hear your response to that.
Oh, gosh. Well, my favorite lawyer answer is it depends. I think the big thing is to make sure that I think where companies get in the most trouble, especially from seeing it on the other side and being able to see in the discovery that happens when you are in an FTC investigation, is the knowledge. So for instance, if you have the knowledge that these people are trying to cancel and we're not letting them cancel and they're complaining and we know that, but we're A/B testing and, this is making us more money, so we're just going to keep going, I would say that's probably not the best idea. If we're talking about claims and, it's not something, I don't know, I'm trying to think like a weight loss claim is going to hold a lot more weight than a run-of-the-mill immune system claim that might not be perfectly worded, because everyone wants to lose weight these days and everyone wants to get healthy. So if they think that this product will help them lose, 100 pounds, that's going to be a bigger lawsuit than someone who's taking this supplement to kind of help with it.
So if I said, because I was just reading yesterday, like GLP-1s now are being taken by like 1 in every 8 adult Americans. Yeah. So if I hear like what you're saying, if I had a product that's not a GLP-1, but is a weight loss helper, and I were to make a claim that it works like a GLP-1,
that's such a big one.
I'm basically, like, from what you're saying, I'm saying that this is a weight loss drug and it's going to do a lot of these like amazing things, but it's safer because it's all natural or some other claim. Like, that's a big problem.
It's so interesting you said that too, because there was literally just a lawsuit last week, and I can't remember because it was like right before the new year. It was a company that got sued, and they were making claims of like Nature's ADHD medication. And so they were saying, take this supplement in place of, your ADHD medication. And so it's similar, right? You're saying, this supplement's going to act like a prescription drug, which is a large risk. And especially for those that actually need to take GLP-1s and aren't just taking it because they want to like look better, that need it for diabetes or need it because they've been prescribed it for a medical purpose, taking a supplement's not going to have the same effect, and it could actually cause detriment to the health. So yes, you are correct. And that is actually a big one that, I don't know, in the last year, we've seen a lot of actions too. I think Kourtney Kardashian's company, there was something, I can't remember if they were investigated or if there was a lawsuit with their GLP-1 supplement product for similar reasons.
Okay. So I want to kind of keep going down that line of thought, but before we, because there was something else that you said when you're talking about like what gets people into trouble, and it was about like that knowledge and that A/B testing thing, which made me laugh because I've worked with plenty of brands and know plenty of brands that are doing that. So it sounds like if you are in the process of doing that, you need to speed up that process to be done to get to the point, start A/B testing, letting people cancel and making that happen. It is funny. We actually have seen, like, this is just a quick side. Because a lot of companies they'll do this direct response where you have to call in to cancel, right? You signed up online, you have to call in to cancel. And my understanding of the FTC ruling is people need to be able to cancel in the way that they signed up. So if they called you to sign up, they can call you to cancel. But if they signed up online, they need to be able to cancel online, right? And you're not, for anybody listening, Natascia's nodding her head and agree. And
sorry.
No, you said But we have seen like a lot of times it's actually a lot easier to test offers and be quick and be really successful doing it with an online software as opposed to people that you're calling, because by the time somebody's calling in, they get really frustrated and they're a lot harder to say. Okay. So I just want to make sure that nobody missed that in what you're saying, because I thought that was really, really important. Okay. So switching back gears. So I'm sorry for anybody who's like listening while they're walking. We're jumping right back into the fire. So with claims, so you start talking about like some of the mistakes people make with claims is basically stating that this works just like prescribed medication. Is there more unpacking that needs to be happening with that, or are there other common mistakes you've seen with claims that get brands into trouble?
So I think I do have a list. I think the biggest thing that I see, and I'm sure that, and I hope every e-commerce brand owner they're nodding their head like, yeah, we've done this, is copying competitors and saying, well, this brand is doing it, so why can't we? That is probably the number one question I've gotten as an attorney throughout, private practice, being in-house. It's always, they're doing it, why can't we? And it's a hard question to answer because it also depends on so many things. We don't know their science. We don't know what their team has looked at to determine that is safe. We don't know what their risk tolerance is. We don't know if maybe they've never received a demand letter or a lawsuit or a warning letter. They've never received anything. So they're just proceeding, and they might have billions of dollars that we don't know about, and they can just pay it out and they don't care. So I try to say, like, what is our risk tolerance and what do we want? Because I mean, brand can say whatever they want, but ultimately
there's no protection. So I always want to ask, and you probably can't answer this question, but I just had this thought of like, even Walgreens is saying like, well, hey, Walmart's doing this, why can't we do it?
I mean, yes, I've definitely heard very similar things of like, and it is, they compare small brands compare to other small brands, big brands compare to other like big retailers. And they say things like, what we want to do what this company's doing because it looks like it's working for them. And, but we have a different risk profile. We know that we don't want to get in trouble for this for whatever reason it is. And a startup might want to take more risk because they want to sell more than an established company that is constantly getting hit with lawsuits that might be frivolous, but they're still paying out because they want to get rid of it and just make it go away. And I've worked with bigger companies where that is the case. They get hit with a frivolous lawsuit. There's no like teeth to it, but they kind of just pay to make it go away. And they don't want to constantly be paying to make things go away when we know it's a risk. So I would say the competitors is a big one. Did you have
especially in the e-com space, because everybody is constantly trying to copy or recreate the same funnels and offers of brands that they see doing well. And often somebody will know somebody that has worked with that brand, or somebody that's worked with somebody that worked with that brand. And so they get a little bit of insider information to say, hey, this is crushing. Like, you guys should try this. But yeah, it's like, especially around claims and language and copy, it's difficult when you feel like everybody else is winning, not playing by the rules, and you're losing playing by the rules. I can understand that frustration, but you said some really interesting things about, you don't really know what's really going on, what's really in their product, what testing they've really done, or if they're just completely like, just don't care. They just don't give a crap.
Well, and it could be that the next day they get hit with something like Instacart, where all of a sudden they're on the news for, something really terrible. And then you're kind of like, oh, I'm glad that wasn't my company that did that, because then they're on the news and they look bad and their brand could be tarnished.
Well, and if everybody's doing it, like if we're in a space where say, everybody's doing the really common space right now is hydration supplements, right? Like that's like really on fire. It's like, if we start copying what everybody else is doing, I would also be a little concerned that like that also becomes, if a bunch of companies are doing something that's wrong, that makes it actually easier for the FDA or somebody to go after everybody together. Like,
And they
you're all in
that
trouble.
way. They'll send warning letters, like they'll send mass warning letters and say like 10 companies got a warning letter over this bad practice today. So it's not like a speeding ticket where like just one person gets pulled over. It could be the case where multiple people are getting like pulled over at the same time for doing the same bad practice. So
Natascia, you're bringing me some trauma back from my drive into work today, where I was worried about getting pulled over. No, I'm just teasing. There's a new road getting to work. It's very fast and it's nice, but there's been a highway patrolman there every single day I've used it, and somebody's been pulled over every single day after that. And there are no posted speed limit signs, so it makes me nervous. I'm like, is this sorry? As my listeners know, I go on tangents. Okay, so
no,
I'm loving this so far. So you've been talking a lot about like common mistakes. So I'm curious to hear, what is some of the advice you give for building a brand that is making claims that is defensible? Like what is the logic, or what is the reasoning when we're thinking like, what can we say that's not going to get us in trouble? Or if somebody comes after us, we're going to be able to say why it's okay.
So yeah, it's like one of my favorite parts because I pride myself on being like not the lawyer that says no, but the lawyer that will work with you to get where you want to go, but kind of help navigate that a little better. I always try to start with, what do we have? So if it's, you want to say that this supplement helps you lose 10 pounds, which I, would recommend against that for several reasons, but say you really want to say that, what science do we have on the supplement? Can it actually help with metabolism? Can it help with weight maintenance? What do we have? And let's start there. And I used to work with the social media team closely, young girls who really want to they see all these trends. And I would always say, what can we do instead of what can we not do? So, okay, this trend is high risk, but what do we have? So I'd always say, start with what you have, the evidence, and then design your claim around that so that it's truthful and you're not going to get in trouble for saying something that's false. And I would say,
without, I don't want to put you on the spot too much of this, but can you give us an example to explain that a little bit more of like, if it's not, so for example, let's say our supplement in a study, it increased metabolism 10%.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to lose weight, but does that mean we make more claims about metabolism and how metabolism is connected to weight loss as opposed to just directly saying weight loss? Or
yes. And I also, like, as a consumer, and maybe this is because I've been in the industry for a while now too, I think sometimes letting consumers make connections without directly saying it, I try to convince people to do that. So instead of saying like, you're going to lose weight, if you say supports metabolism and, reduces hunger or suppresses appetite, whatever is supported, that leads to weight loss, right? Like long term, if you're taking this supplement and it's helping with your metabolism and it's helping you reduce your appetite and it's helping you like stay hungry or full for longer, that, the consumer knows that means weight loss, but you're not directly saying it and you're not over promising because you're not directly saying it. And so sometimes I like to do that.
And that's the area where I actually do like kind of copying competitors, is when I start to see like different key phrases or catchwords that they're using. That's not necessarily a direct claim. It's like, oh, that's be some copy. We should try testing might convert. What about the tactic of using like a customer quote that's saying that they say something happened? Like, Jenny from New Hampshire, like, I lost 15 pounds last month using this product. Like, is that a claim? Is that going to get me in trouble? Okay.
So it's like, I'm glad you brought that up actually. So using a testimonial is essentially like how the regulators view it, is as if the company is making the claim. So if you're saying, Jenny, if you're citing it and you're saying, I lost 15 pounds in 1 week from using this supplement, Jenny from whatever, Utah, then the company should be able to substantiate that with their science. But also, if it could get them in trouble, if they just said you can lose 15 pounds in 1 week, then they shouldn't be quoting it. And I've gone through websites and kind of gone, this testimonial is high risk, this testimonial is fine, based on what people are saying, because companies should be monitoring their testimonials too. And, you don't want someone saying, oh, I cured my cancer with this supplement and Like,
Right.
so there's some, and it's mostly startups and companies that are health forward, and someone had a really good experience, and I always feel bad because it stings. You really want you want your product to sell, and that sells, but it's still considered risky, and the regulators could look to that and say, well, you're promoting this product to have that effect.
So is it better to like be happier with quotes that are more hyperbole? Like instead of saying I lost like 15 pounds last week or last month, this product changed my life. I feel happier, healthier. Like I made like, that kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah, because you can't, like, what does that mean, right? You can't, you could kind of talk that away, but losing 15 pounds is a clear claim.
Yeah, it's a really clear claim, and it connects with an outcome that, okay, that makes sense. I'd love to hear some examples of things you've seen brands be successful with. If anything comes to mind, like we changed this one word and it went from being bad to good, or just that, like you mentioned a couple of the approaches, like talking about what we can defend. I'm just wondering if you have any other examples or advice for people listening.
So, like, some examples, and I'll just lean into my like FDA knowledge of supplement claims. If you really want to talk about how the supplement's good for your mood, you could say stuff about like calm mood or stress relief or something about like mood, but I wouldn't say like this supplement cured my depression or this supplement helped with my terrible anxiety. If you have a sleep supplement that helps you sleep really well, you could say like, oh, I felt like rested in the morning, or I woke up and I felt a lot better. But I wouldn't say like, I've had insomnia for 5 years and this was the only supplement that worked, because insomnia is technically a disease. So leaning into the benefits, but not mentioning the like disease states that were there. Another one is like blood sugar. I know berberine, I think, is a big one for healthy blood sugar, and it helps with that. But talking about like, oh, this helps keep my blood sugar in healthy range versus this, I don't have diabetes anymore because I took berberine. It's kind of like that difference between the pharmaceutical world and the supplement world of like, a supplement is supposed to kind of help you maintain your levels and your self.
So helping my blood sugar as opposed to helping treat my diabetes. Like,
correct.
Right. Or like, it helped my mood, but it didn't treat depression. Right. Like it helped my energy, but it didn't fix insomnia. Like, okay. I think I'm understanding kind of what you're saying there.
Yeah.
I'm curious too. So, and it's the FDA that normally comes after you, or is it the FTC for advertising claims, or is it both? Like, I guess that's
both. I love talking about this. This is like where my world intersects. So the FDA they're going to be looking for like those disease claims. They're going to be sending warning letters. You have to be properly registered. If you're an OTC drug, there's rules. You have to list your drugs there's a lot of things, but for claims, they're going to be looking at if you're making disease claims versus if you're making proper supplement claims. With COVID, we saw a lot of this where companies were saying, their products could help with COVID, their cosmetics, rub this on you and it can help with COVID. And there was a lot. And they still will go after companies, especially topicals is another area where people will say like, this cream can help. I see it a lot with like menopause, like this cream can help with whatever, inside function, and topical is really only supposed to help beautify. So it can't really help with like a structure function. But then, like supplements, if you're saying, the diabetes versus the blood sugar. And then sometimes if there's unwanted or unnamed ingredients, they'll go after you. But then the FTC is more and I'm simplifying this, so I know Stone wants someone to come after me and say, she's not like going into all of it. The FTC is more like the false advertising. They protect, like it's consumer protection. If you say this product can help with blood sugar, you better have science that shows that this product at this dosage, while you're taking it orally, can help with blood sugar, and that you're not just making it up.
So influencers that aren't disclosing their sponsor, stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah, and they'll go after the influencers. They go after like the testimonials. There was a bunch of companies, I think last week or a week before, that got a warning letters for false testimonials. So either deleting bad testimonies from their website or faking testimonials or, having employees write testimonials and not disclosing that they're employees, etc.
Testimonials is a funny sticking point in my house because my wife loves Amazon and will often base a lot of purchase decisions based off the Amazon reviews. And even if there's like 5,000 or 10,000, and me, I'm generally a positive person, but I am a little cynical when it comes to reviews because I've been in the e-commerce space for a long time. And I was like, you have no idea how much they gain those. And when like
Amazon they use like sometimes they'll say like, oh, this product, and they'll use the same testimonials. And then you're like, great, are we talking about shorts? It says, I love this sweatshirt.
Yeah. And I think it was a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, where there was a massive like lawsuit and all like a bunch of stuff came to light on these companies that had been gaming. And I showed her that article and she finally was like, okay. So actually for the funny story, for Christmas, I got an electric head razor and she said, now based on the reviews, and she kind of like smiled at me, but it's a great razor. So, okay. Yeah. I think everybody should be careful of that. And I didn't realize like the FTC will kind of come after you for how you're like deleting bad ones.
Yeah.
Or maybe obviously gaming the system, which makes sense. That's what they're supposed to be doing, right? Is protecting us from bad actors and stuff. So, okay. The food question. I wanted to ask you this about the difference or delineation between a supplement and a food. One of our clients was asking this question when I told them I was going to interview you. And they're saying, hey, we feel like we're a food because we're using all food products, but we get treated like a supplement because it's a protein. It's essentially like a meal replacement or a protein powder. How would a brand like that, should they be thinking about how there should be a food or not? What's the difference? What do you see when you get that type of question?
So I'll start again with it depends. For a company who's doing kind of like a food supplement product that could go in either category, it's really going to come down to what claims do they want to make about the product? Do they want to say that this helps with muscle recovery and helps, build muscle? Or do they just want to say, here's a protein powder because everyone knows what a protein powder is? One's going to lean more towards supplement. One's going to be more towards food. The labeling will be different. Food has the nutrition facts and the supplement will have the supplement facts. And then there's like a disclaimer that's used on supplements. It's like the DSHEA disclaimer, like the FDA is not reviewed, approved, all these statements, whatever. I should know this by heart, but
I've heard them like this.
Yeah. And then, so it's really just going to come down to, and then certain ingredients too, which it sounds like your client kind of knows that they have food ingredients, but there's certain ingredients that wouldn't be allowed in food that would be that would be allowed in supplements. So depends on those two things. Usually protein powders, they want to make muscle recovery, muscle building claims. So they usually just go to supplement, but I have seen food protein powders. So
this product's pretty fun because they're marketing themselves as it's not ultra processed and it's just using whole food ingredients, so it shouldn't hurt your stomach. So like you shouldn't have digestive issues, which you do have with like ultra processed protein powders. Some people do. Yeah. So it's like, hey, we've got some egg in here and a couple other like basic stuff. We've got egg, milk, and all these basic things, and here you go. We haven't really done anything to it except for dried it out and mixed it up for you. So they do feel like it's very much like a food as opposed to a supplement.
Yeah, and it could be, as long as their labeling is consistent with like how a food would be labeled. Yeah, could be.
Okay, that's really cool. Okay, cool. Natascia, I would love, as we wrap up, I would love for you to share with everybody, because I think, I'm sure people know what a lawyer does or who a lawyer is, but with your specific niche and who you're working with, I'd love for you to take a minute to like unpack a little bit of your services, who you work with, for anybody listening at home that would like to reach out to you.
Yeah. So how I work, you can reach out to me on my website, which is theadvertisinglawyer.com. I can help with claims. If you just want your claims reviewed, I can help with package and label review. I can help with making sure that it's all compliant if you have an FDA or just a normal consumer product. I also help with like influencer marketing and social media. So if you have questions about how to engage influencers, or how do we make sure that they're properly disclosed, or do we need a contract for this? Those sort of issues I love helping with. And then I can also review like sweepstakes and promotions or anything that you want to run on your page. Website reviews, like I said, packaging and labeling, all of that. So happy to help in however I've done it all. And if you just, want to one-off run ideas past me or say, hey, we have this new product launch, can you look at our science? I also do substantiation reviews. So my background is actually in molecular biology. So I know how to read a study. I know how to say, yeah, this is a good study, or no, this study's crap, you need to find a different one. But I can help with that. And, and I have in the past, if you give me, this is what we have, what can we say? I've also done that. So kind of whatever a client needs. Yeah. So
that's a lot. And I think you mentioned before, whether they have an in-house attorney or not, like you are bringing a special set of skills and experience that can supplement that and work with that as well.
Yeah, I think the FDA and advertising space is people know that it exists, but they don't necessarily know all the nuances to it. So even if you have like a general in-house counsel, it's nice to have that specialized marketing and advertising counsel that can kind of look at the issues, especially if it's a supplement or a cosmetic food. They're very regulated. So yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We will have a link to your LinkedIn in the show notes, as well as your website, The Advertising Lawyer. I've loved this conversation. It is just something that I think so many of us just don't think about until it's a problem, or, we want to write great copy and then somebody goes, wait, you can't say that. So I think this has been really, really helpful. And again, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Absolutely. All right. That's it for another episode of Subscription Prescription. Stay tuned till next week for another dose.
That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe so that you can get notified when new episodes come out each week on Tuesdays.